All right, so we are prepping for Lucky Dog Pacific Raceways, June 3rd, 4th, and 5th. So prep for that. We have less big tasks to prep for this race than the previous one. So hopefully that leaves us in a better prepared position. But at the Ridge race, we had 2 differential failures from the same differential supplier. One of them appears to be a just outright assembly or component failure. It physically broke immediately. The spider gears disintegrated and one of the trunnion shafts snapped in 2. So which happened first, I don't know. And what specifically caused it, we don't know yet. The other differential, we lost the pinion bearings. We've had that happen once before from the same supplier. Appears to be a setup issue in both cases. So needless to say, we're using a new supplier now. So we have a new 6-plate 5065 ramp differential coming, and should be here in the next week or so. 427 ring and pinion. Big advantages of this clutch are this differential are the clutches. Because there's 6 of them, it offers a lot more longevity in the differential itself, so the time between services should be extended. And also the way it locks up should be a lot more effective. We can get higher lockup rates, and with 50-65 ramps, we should have a good lockup on decel, so the car is manageable in the rain, and then nearly 100% lockup on acceleration on the differential. So it'll be interesting to try the difference compared to, we've been running a 30-60, a 1.5 way ramp setup, and that's super common, and that's been the norm for years for people to run. So this is gonna be a new setup for us, so eager to see how it works. It's not based on a factory differential. This is a complete new differential. It's in a factory housing, but the diff itself is, should be pretty strong, totally aftermarket. We have high hopes for it. So, but we're going to be testing it, and before we start offering these to customers, we're going to make sure it'll go the distance for us on the racetrack. So that's one of the big things. So, and then we're taking our 2 broken differentials, the one with the bad bearing, the one with the bad diff itself that broke. We're taking our 427 ring and pinion, which appears to be salvageable. We're going to take the 1.5 way differential with the bad pinion bearing. We're going to marry these, get everything cleaned up, marry these into one diff that we're going to build here. And that'll be our backup differential. So hopefully we'll have that together in the next week or 2, and then we'll be able to test that out at ORP before we go to the track. So that's the big stuff that's happening before Pacific. Everything else is we're doing refreshing all the wheel bearings except for the one we replaced at the track. So we'll do front wheel bearings, passenger rear wheel bearing. And so those make it about 50 to 60 hours in between failures at the track. So we typically get 2 to 3 races out of them. So to be on the safe side, we're replacing them every other race. Down the road, we're going to upgrade to M3 trailing arms on the car, which have a larger bearing in them. So that'll give us more longevity on the rear wheel bearings, and also a larger stub shaft out of the differential and a little bit bigger CV joint. We don't have a lot of torque, so we don't have problems with wear and tear on the CVs. It really just comes down to, we have a lot of tire in the car. We run a 275 on there, and we have a pretty wide stance in the car, so there's a lot of load on the bearings. And you know, this is a 92 BMW 325 that's basically been converted into an M3, and so that car came with skinny like 225s on it. Was never intended to have these kind of lateral loads and forces on it. So the fact that the bearings make it 2 races is good, but it'd be nice to have less service work in between races and just more longevity out of the bearings in general. So we're gonna upgrade the rears. The fronts, we may go to an E46 knuckle, which has a E46 M3. That has a larger bearing as well. I believe that'll give us a little bit more caster. And it shouldn't affect the stance of the car as long as we use the E36 control arms. I think we'll have the same track width. That's all stuff coming down the pike, but it's not, we're not doing any of that for Pacific. We're gonna do the 3 wheel bearing replacements. We're gonna get a new diff in there, hopefully test our backup diff. We gotta clean out the diff pump, diff cooler, and all the lines for that, just to make sure there's no debris in there from the failure. And then the fire bottle's expiring this month, so that's out for service right now. So that'll be back next week. We'll get that back in the car. Window nets are expired, so new window nets are going in the car this week or next week. And that's pretty much it for any upgrades or changes to the car. We're still in the same boat with ARP fasteners for the rod bolts. So we need to compression test the car, hopefully today or tomorrow, make sure the health of the motor is okay. And assuming we haven't declined any on our compression results from the previous race, we're gonna run this motor one more time at Pacific. And then hopefully our rod bolts are in so we can assemble our backup motor and get that in the car, get this motor out, refresh it, and get it ready for when we do need it in the future.